Welcome back to the Paranoid Perspective. I am Jake.
And I'm Sarah.
Today we're going to talk about something that is kind of close to home for you and I. You know, it's man, I remember when it went down, it was nuts, absolutely crazy. And we were just talking a little bit before we started recording. I'm really happy this was on the agenda because I have fallen out of what happened in this case, and doing a little bit of research, I had no idea how insane it is. It's crazy.
It is, it's pretty crazy. So we'll get into it. Yeah, I feel like every time I pass Delphi, I think of this because I go past it every single time I go home. So
yeah, well,
it's like
and
crazy.
correct me if I'm wrong. That's like what, going up north from Indianapolis. It's probably 50 miles. Something like that. What
Probably, yeah.
You know, so it's wild that it was so close to where you and I grew up, you know. But before we get into this, just so listeners, you guys know, if you didn't read the title, we are talking about the Delphi murders and the associated craziness that happened, not only with what happened, but with the trial and the case itself. So yeah, let's get into it.
Yeah, we can get into it. I said Delphi is like an hour and a half north of Indianapolis.
Oh, okay. Well, I was a little too much. Well, not enough. Yeah, not enough.
Yeah, and it's a very small town. It has like 3,000 residents, so it's like crazy that something like this happened there.
Right.
So the date is February 13th, 2017, which is a Monday. 14-year-old Abigail Williams, which she goes by Abby, and 14-year-old Liberty German, which goes by Libby. They have a free day from school, so they're like, it's a built-in snow day that they didn't use, so they have a free day.
Yeah.
So Abby spent the previous night at Libby's house, and, you know, they're deciding what to do with their free day, and they decide to go to the Monon High Bridge Trail, which this trail, like, almost everyone in town, like, knows about it and uses it. Like, it's kind of like a forest preserve.
Yeah, it's a pretty, I mean, with a small town and a nature walk like that, it's a pretty popular area for, you know, that town to go to, you know.
Right. Yeah, what else is there to do? So
well, yeah.
So at 1:49 p.m., Libby's older sister Kelsey, who was 17 at the time, dropped them off at the start of the Monon High Bridge Trail, which was like 5 minutes away from their house. So it's so close to their house.
Right.
And the trail is like a wooded area with dense foliage and like a lot of intersecting trails, so it can get a little confusing, but you know, they're natives, so they know where they're going.
Yeah.
And the Monon High Bridge is an old railroad bridge and was in disrepair at the time. And it's like not actually part of the trail, and it's supposed to be off limits because it was dangerous to be up there, but it like butts up right against the trail, so like kids go there anyway, you know, because kids are kids.
So I'm looking in the show notes right now, and absolutely not would I be going across this freaking bridge or this.
It looks.
this dilapidated railroad bridge, man. It is nuts. Listeners, we will have this posted on social media. It's nuts, man. But to be fair, I know how young and stupid I was when, you know, I was about that age. I would 100%, I'm totally lying, I would 100% be all over that. As a teenager.
Right.
For sure.
Like a 13, 14-year-old.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. But the first picture is a little deceiving, but it's 70 feet above Deer Creek. So that is pretty tall.
Yeah. That's death if you fall, for sure, into the water, you know?
Right. Yeah. And there's no railings at all because it used to be, you know, a railroad track, and all the railroad ties are like rotted or falling through. Like you make one misstep.
Yeah.
And you're going to fall.
You're dropping 70 feet into Deer Creek.
Right. So you need to know like, what you're doing to be on this bridge. So pretty much only locals would go on there. Like no one's going to look at it the first time and go on there. But also like it's a famous spot for teens to take prom pictures like in front of it, like at the end of the trail, not like on it.
Okay. Yeah, I could see that for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So at 2:07 p.m., Libby took a photo of Abby walking across the Monon High Bridge and posted it to her Snapchat story. And then right after that photo was taken, the girls were approached by this like strange guy. and his face was covered by an old hat, and he had on a worn like blue jacket, like a Carhartt jacket. And Libby was really alarmed by his presence, so she secretly recorded the conversation they had on her phone, like through her pocket, and this like led them to actually catch someone later, but we'll get into that. But yeah, that's a picture of the Snapchat story with
Okay, yeah.
Libby on it, yeah. And then at 3 p.m., Libby's dad, Derek, pulled it into one of the parking areas to like pick up the girls, and they weren't there. So he waited a bit. He called Libby at 3:11. She didn't answer. By 3:30, he started searching the trails, thinking maybe they were like injured somewhere or like couldn't reach anyone. And then he said he spotted a man in a flannel shirt and asked if he'd seen two girls, and that guy said no, but he saw like a couple on the bridge. So, like, he went to where the bridge was, and he didn't see them still. And then he called his mom, Becky, which is Libby's grandma. And Becky was Tara, which is Libby's aunt. So they both called and texted Libby as well to try and get a hold of her. And obviously, they didn't get a hold of her. And then they went driving around because these trails kind of lead up to other areas, and it's close to their house. So they're thinking maybe they were just walking around.
Yeah, I mean, from what I've seen from maps of this, it's kind of twisty and turny, but everything leads out to somewhere, you know?
Right, yeah. Yeah, so if they had lost time, the track of time or something, or ended up walking back home, like they could have done that. So they were driving around looking for them. And then by 4 o'clock, Becky called her husband, Mike, who was working in Lafayette at the time, which is like the next town over, basically, to let him know what was happening. So he clocked out of work early, and he went to the trail to also search. And he also called Kelsey, who left work early, which was the teenager that dropped them off, like the sister. So they all searched. They couldn't find them at all. And, they're thinking, where are they? So by 5 p.m., Mike contacted police, and the police immediately started searching, like a massive manhunt, because what else are they doing, I guess?
Right.
And this is like a big deal that they're missing. So they're officially reported missing at 5 p.m. that day.
Well, and I was going to say too, with being such a small town, it's not the same as there might be a slight bit of, what would be a good way to say it? Maybe a little bit of a lack of empathy in a bigger city, because it's just not really feasible to, allocate certain resources. But in a town like this, yeah, they're gonna get it going. There's no reason not to. So
yeah, and I'm sure they don't have missing people like all the time.
I
so it's
highly
like a big
doubt
deal.
it. Yeah.
So Becky called AT&T to ping Libby's cell phone, but like either AT&T didn't cooperate with that, or it didn't work to help them find them. But Becky also got a hold of Abby's mom, Anna, to tell her the news, so she joined the search as well. And by 6 p.m., the Carroll County Sheriff's Office, the Delphi Fire Department, and the Delphi Police were searching. So, like, pretty much everyone.
Yeah, the whole, any available resource pretty much at that point is all out and about.
Right. And family members had also posted on social media asking for help searching. So, like, most of the town showed up to help search.
Yeah.
So, like, almost everyone's out there. And they didn't find them that night, though. So they called up the search at 10 p.m. because it was, like, difficult terrain because it's very dense there and it's dark. And the temperatures were dropping because it was February. So they called up the search. But a lot of people stayed, like, throughout the night, like a lot of the family members and stuff.
Yeah. I think it'd be nearly impossible if I was in that situation to go home. There's no way that would happen.
Right. Yeah, so by the next morning, Indiana State Police released an official statement to like look for the two girls. And that morning, they brought in helicopters, state troopers, the FBI, and a K-9 unit to search the area. So they brought in like literally everyone outside of their area.
Yeah.
And during the day, one of the search team members found a shoe. So this group, which Kelsey was in, like searching, like the sister was there. So it was around the Monon High Bridge, and like they had spent 30 minutes looking under it and like had just crossed it. So the man like spotted the shoe as they were crossing that bridge, like in the distance, because he had zoomed in on his phone. So it's like he wouldn't even have seen it. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say that's quite a set of eyes that dude's got if he can pick that out.
Yeah, he was using his phone, which is like smart.
For sure.
But he said he had spotted 2 bodies. So they went to search and it was the girls. So they were found the next day. So this area that they were found was on the edge of someone's property that butts up to Deer Creek. And it's on the other side of the creek. So like they would have had to cross this creek to get over there. And the spot was also kind of like a divot. So it was like that's why they were so well hidden, because you wouldn't be able to see them just walking normally.
Right.
And also like you really can't see them on High Bridge from that spot anymore. So it was pretty secluded. So at 2:00 that day, officials announced to the public that they were found there. Well, they just said 2 girls. They didn't confirm it was Libby and Abby until like 24 hours later. Then they confirmed
But
that those
I
were
mean,
the 2 girls.
once that was announced, it's
Yeah.
pretty safe assumption in a town like that. They found 2 people. 2 people were missing. Not hard to put 2 and 2 together at that point.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And so they started investigating the case basically as a homicide. And the local police said they were confident the crime would be solved within 48 hours. So,
Well, that would be a gross overstatement by any means.
yeah, it's been, 7 years? I
Oh,
guess
yeah.
so.
Right.
Yeah. So, like, the police really still haven't released how they died. I think some of it was released in, like, the trial that I'll get to, but I couldn't find it. Like, you'd have to be a lawyer or something to get all those trial documents or whatever.
Right.
But they said both girls' necks were wrapped in scarves at their funeral, so that led to many theories and, like, speculation on the internet that they were, like, stabbed in the neck.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, Mike, which was Libby's grandfather, had to ID Libby because none of the other family members wanted to do it. So he said, what keeps me going is thinking of the last few minutes of the girls' lives, what they went through. So it was like really bad what he saw to
Right.
identify her. So the man who owns that property, like the edge of the property where they were found, is Ron Logan, but he was eventually ruled out as a suspect. I'm not sure how they ruled him out, but he had his license suspended in 2014 for drunk driving, and he ended up driving on the day the girls went missing. But it's not really connected, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's unfortunate, but I mean, if something like that happens on your property, even if it's, like you said, butted up next to a public trail, one of the speculations is always going to be, well, you're just right up the road, sort of thing. But
right. Or how did you not see anything?
How did you not see? How did you not hear? The allegations and questions would just fly at that point, I would assume.
Right. Yeah. So February 15th, the police released a grainy photo of a man who was a person of interest, which they started calling this guy Bridge Guy. They still call him Bridge Guy.
Yep. I remember.
Yeah. And I mean, you really can't see anything in it.
No.
I mean, you can see the jacket and jeans.
Yeah.
And a hat, I guess.
Yeah. Listeners, this photo that they have of the Bridge Guy is the most pixelated, horrible quality. You can see a probably, based on the posture, maybe slightly older Caucasian male in a blue jacket and blue jeans. Like that's about all you're getting out of it. There's nothing really there.
Yeah, I'm sure most guys look like this, are wearing this.
Right.
And it later came out that this photo was taken from the video that like Libby took of this guy. Oh. But like if you look at the video, which it's literally like they released like 3 seconds of the video of like him walking a little bit, but it obvious like this had to be a local because of how comfortable he was like on this bridge. Right.
Yeah, like we said in the beginning, you're not gonna just go to this spot and just kind of hang out, and go across. Any person that's not from there would look at that and think, absolutely not. I'm gonna go nowhere near that thing.
Right. Yeah, and he's walking across with like his hands in his pocket.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like he's very casual. So he had to have been a local. And like the idea that people said was he saw the girls on the bridge, so he walked on the bridge to like kind of corner them, because on the other end of the bridge was just the woods. Like there was no trail on the other side. So like then he forced them off the trail and like down to where he killed them. So let's see what else. Yeah, plus like there was like a town, like a community, like housing, like right below, like south of where they went. Like made them go north, like away from all those houses and stuff. So like he had to have known that there were like people that way because he directed them the other way.
Well, yeah, and you can tell by the map too of where they were found in that bowl in that depression,
Right.
where you couldn't see it from the bridge. It was butted up against somebody's property that was somewhat large from what I've actually looked at. It's somebody that knows the area well, and you wouldn't see that just as an opportunistic person that would just be
Right.
like, oh, hey, today I feel like this is what we're going to do. I'm going to go to random town and do this. No, it's
Right.
definitely somebody that knows the area for sure.
Yeah. So February 22nd, they had a press conference, and the reward for information was at $41,000. And the Indiana State Police Sergeant said murderers during his statement, so people thought there was more than one person.
Yeah, I
But
remember that there was this idea that there were, what, two people, three people, or something like that. I cannot remember, but I remember hearing that all the time, and it kind of blew me away. That I remember sitting when that story was coming out, like, dude, this is such a small town. There's no way that you have a pair of serial killers that just,
yeah,
hang out together. There's no way that that's possible. So I was pretty convinced. I remember hearing that on the news and thinking very early on that no, it was probably just a single person. It was probably just a spoken phrase that the person said.
yeah, because later in the conference he said murderer,
Yeah,
single. So
yeah,
yeah, it was probably a slip up, but a lot of people started thinking it was more than one person at that time.
for sure.
And also part of the press conference, part of the voice clip Libby was able to record was played, so you can hear a man say guys down the hill in it, which that's a very famous clip. I don't know if you want me to play the YouTube video.
Yeah, we can. I don't know if it'll get picked up here.
It's not gonna pick up on my thing. I don't. Yeah.
It's all right. Listeners, I will use some studio magic to add that in.
Yeah, because to me it clearly does sound like guys down the hill, but they were hoping someone would recognize the voice and call in a tip, but that didn't really happen. And July 17th, the police released a sketch of the suspect. So they said it was middle-aged or possibly older, a man, scruffy in appearance, slightly heavy-set, wearing a hoodie and a newsboy-style hat with hair peeking out. And they said dark eyes, large nose, and they said that's the bridge guy, is this sketch.
Well,
but obviously this looks like so many people.
Well, that's the other thing. You have no actual eyewitnesses to this individual. You know what I mean? They're going off of, I'm assuming, that grainy picture that we looked at, And if you're looked at those two things, and like you said, I've probably passed by in my life thousands of people that look like this guy.
Right.
A scruffy, heavyset, Caucasian, slightly older man. Okay.
Right. Literally everyone.
Right.
Especially in Delphi, so many people.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at. You're in a small town USA sort of stuff, this is
right.
a very typical look for men in their, late 30s, whatever. That's a typical look that you would see throughout probably any small town.
Right. Yeah. So they didn't really get any leads from that. But in September 2017, a name came up, Daniel Nations. So that was a person of interest for a little bit. And he was facing a felony charge in Colorado at the time for allegedly threatening several hikers with a hatchet in Colorado. So
Very
the
nice.
Colorado sheriff, yeah, that would be scary.
Well, threatening though, I'm sorry, I don't mean to derail,
Yeah.
but what's the purpose?
Just
if we're
to
gonna
scare people.
Well, for what the okay, I'm not wishing any harm on anybody, but why go to jail for just being I'm gonna get you with this hatchet,
right.
and then just go away,
Because it is a felony apparently in Colorado at least. So yeah.
Well, yeah, but I mean, just whole ass it. If you're gonna do it, don't half ass it. Never mind. I'm gonna stop. We're gonna.
Yeah. Well, so Colorado sheriff had contacted Indiana State Police because it seemed similar in that he was in the woods, I guess.
White guy in the woods.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And he was on the registered sex offender registry since 2007, and he registered himself as a sex offender in Morgan County, which is south of Indianapolis and 90 miles from Delphi. So he was like there January 31st, 2017 is when he registered there. So he was kind of close to Delphi, like an hour and a half.
That's kind of a stretch, though. Like, I'm not trying to give the
Yeah,
dude any credit. He
it
sounds like
is.
a real piece of shit, but that's a bit of a stretch. I mean, I get
Right.
the intent, but man,
Yeah. I mean, they just looked into him because he was
yeah,
required to check in every 7 days too in
okay,
person.
yeah,
And
that makes
he
sense.
did check in on February 14th. So he was still in the area when this happened. But then he was in jail, though, from February 24th to the 28th.
Oh,
So,
okay.
and
Well,
was in and out of jail several times and on the run after that for months. So
real
that
winner.
didn't really lead to anything. So skipping a couple years, April 22nd, 2019, they had a press conference and they invited all of the public to go, which was like unusual for this. Like they were having monthly updates, but not where the public could go every time. And they also had everyone like sign in, which is very weird. And a lot of people thought this would like be announcing an arrest or something.
Well, talking about the signing in thing. So there's a psychological thing that happens with a lot of people that commit crimes or violent crimes against people. They want to be a part of the bystander crowd. So that might have been a tactic that they were trying to use to lure that individual in, seeing if anybody fit that profile. I'm being
Right.
extremely speculative here. That makes sense to me. That might not be the case, but that would be an easy way for if somebody comes and checks out what they're talking about, because, they like to admire not being caught. And it's kind of a rush for them again,
Right.
you know?
And it had been 2 years at this point, so they probably
Yeah, I
thought
mean,
they were going to get away with it.
yeah, much longer than 48 hours. So I think I'm good.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, that makes sense to me because they still think it's some local too. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like I said, they like to almost admire the confusion in the
right.
authorities, minds when it comes to this sort of thing.
Yeah. So at this press conference, the police asked for help in identifying the driver of a vehicle that was parked at the old CPS welfare building in Delphi. So this was an abandoned building on the east side of Country Road 300 North, which was next to the highway. And this car had been there like between the hours of noon and 5 on February 13th of the day that, like the time they think that they were murdered.
Mm-hmm.
And it's only a 20-minute walk from the Monon High Bridge, and it's like kind of leads into the trail and everything. So
Yeah.
they asked people to help identify like who owned this vehicle. And they also released a new sketch since they had like more time or more information over the time. And now they said that they thought he was between 18 and 40, which a lot of people were upset by this.
Well, yeah, it's like when you go get like any sort of work. Okay, sorry, I don't mean to conflate this. This is me trying to be funny, and it's probably not going to be funny. But whenever you sit here and you call somebody to do some work on your house, they're like, "Oh yeah, we'll be here between the hours of 8 and 8."
Yeah.
Will you be home? I don't know. Thank you for that. That is such an awesome range of time, or in this case, an awesome range of years. It could be anybody that just graduated high school or somebody that's 40.
Right.
Good luck.
It could literally be anyone, any white male.
Yeah,
That
anybody.
is, yeah. Yeah, so they weren't very happy about that. And they had been like spreading the old sketch everywhere, and they just felt like they had to start over at this point because it had been 2 years at this point. And that's the new sketch where they
The
look so
new
much younger in
sketch
the new
is
sketch.
ridiculous. I'm just saying.
Yeah, it is. Well, and the second picture I have is like the overlay, because some people said this doesn't even look like the same person. But if you look at the overlay, it does look like basically the same features.
Yeah,
At least
just
there's that, but
just softer, younger. Yeah, but
yeah, like a
ridiculous.
20-year-old or something. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it was crazy. And yeah, they ended the press conference saying they thought the suspect could be in the room. So I think that is why they had everyone sign in, like you were saying.
Yeah.
And also, according to Susan Hendricks, which is the author of like the book I read, like Down the Hill, because she was a reporter during this whole time. But at the bottom of the press release page that the police had handed out at this press conference, it said, "We have a witness who made mistakes. We are coming for you, and there's no place for a heartless coward like you to hide that gets his thrill from killing little girls." So, like, the police are taunting him.
I don't know how effective
Yeah.
that would actually be. Like, I feel like if that individual was there and saw that, like that would probably almost just be comical to them at that point. You
Yeah.
know, it'd be like, yeah, okay. If you had something and you knew that I was here, you would already have me arrested, sort of idea. You know what I mean? Like that.
Well, yeah.
I get the tactic, but I mean, it's just such a poor execution
You're right.
of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is
Uh,
crazy that because that's 2019. I mean, spoiler alert, there was a trial last year, so it took 5 more years
that's what
still.
I'm
Like,
saying. That's
yeah.
what I'm saying. And
So,
I mean, I know listeners, you might not be up to speed on all of this, but yes, from what we're talking about right now was a 5 year gap from when there was an actual trial like that.
yeah.
So I don't understand it. I guess maybe they were just, grasping at whatever they could do, throwing rice at the wall, so to speak. But I mean, that just seems so stupid.
Right. Yeah, and it doesn't make the family feel like they're
Exactly.
actually know
That's
what they're
the
doing.
that's the other thing. Like that sounds like somebody that's just like talking shit that doesn't know how to fight. Like that's what that couple sentences sounds like to me. You know,
Yeah.
oh, we're coming for you.
Right.
We're
Yeah, we have a
coming.
witness.
We got a witness.
You
Up.
you messed
you,
up.
you're
Don't.
lucky. You're lucky they're holding me back. Yeah. Okay.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know, like
Yeah.
it's so stupid. Anyway,
Yeah. So, skipping a couple months, July 22nd, 2019, like another suspect name came out in the media, which was 55-year-old Paul Eder. And police stopped Eder in Lebanon, which is 50 miles south of Delphi. They thought he was driving a stolen car, but then he refused to cooperate and put a gun to his head and drove into a field. And the
solid.
negotiators, yeah, like that's crazy. I would just like, whatever. I don't know that.
Good tactic.
Yeah. And the negotiators talked to him for 5 hours before he did end up killing himself. But 2 days before this incident, he was accused of kidnapping and sexually assaulting a 26-year-old and holding her captive on his family farm, which that's like crazy.
What in the fuck are we? I never, like, I get it. There are crazy people everywhere. I understand that. If you're driving down the highway, you're definitely driving by people that are insane. I got it. But that is, you don't hear like stuff about that. I don't ever
I know.
I don't remember hearing anything about that guy
Yeah, I
at
didn't hear
all.
anything about that. I mean, we weren't living in Indiana at that point,
Well, true,
2019.
but I mean, it was one of those things that we still kind of followed.
Yeah,
I,
right.
whatever,
You'd
man,
think we
that
would
is
have heard.
wild.
Yeah. So, like 12 hours after he had kidnapped her, he ended up driving her to like a residence, not hers, I guess, someone's residence, a family member or something, and released her. So she called the cops, and that's how they like found him and stuff. But so they kind of thought because he had done that, maybe he was connected to the Delphi murders just because he's crazy. But they took DNA after like he killed himself. They collected his DNA, and it didn't link anything to Delphi murders. So it's another like dead end.
Yeah, just another crazy asshole.
Yeah, very crazy. By April 5th, 2021, the reward money for any information was at $325,000.
That
So
is the
that's
one
like,
thing I do remember. It was like every couple months, like they would talk about this, or I would call home and talk to mom or dad, and that's what they were talking. Like, you know, I remember our dad like specifically saying, like, man, it's getting to the point now where if there are multiple people, like somebody's going to sell somebody out. You know what I mean? Just out of
right.
greed,
Well,
because
yeah.
when it like the first couple round, what was it, like 40,000 for,
Yeah. It was
something
like
like that?
31 or something. Yeah.
Now you're getting into a six-figure thing that, if there were multiple people involved, it'd be pretty hard for somebody not to be like, yeah, I'm gonna sell this guy out, but I'm gonna save myself, and I'm gonna get payday.
Well, yeah. Right. I mean, maybe that was the tactic if they did think maybe it
Uh,
was more than one person. On April 19th, 2021, 42-year-old James Brian Chadwell was arrested in Lafayette for kidnapping and sexually assaulting a 9-year-old who survived and was found in his basement. So a lot of people speculated, like after his mugshot was released, that he looked like the updated sketch. And he also had 2 large tattoos on his arms that many people thought resembled Abby and Libby.
well, and see, after looking at this guy and seeing the side by side, especially of the first initial sketch,
Yeah.
I could see, I can see the similarities, like the nose especially. Eyes are a
Hmm.
little off, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's pretty close. And then as
His
far,
mouth's kind of weird though.
that's what I was gonna say too. His mouth is not kind of the same either.
Yeah.
But I could definitely see the resemblance. And as far as the Abby and Libby tattoos, like, human beings like to associate like what they see and they don't really see what's in front of them most of the time. They see what they want to see,
Yeah.
so you already have like I'm not saying that it's not like completely dissimilar, but I mean, it's probably just some weirdo with a tattoo of girls on his arm.
Right. Yeah.
Like I'm not trying to discredit anybody that had hope for it or anything. I'm just saying it yeah, it's just some creepy dude with tattoos of kids on his arm.
Right. Yeah, I mean everyone's just trying to link anyone to
Yeah,
this case at this point. Um, but yeah, on July 29th, 2021, the police said they had no comments on Chadwell or any other suspect, and like an arrest was not made still for the murders. So in December 6th, 2021, Indiana State Police announced a possible break in the case and asked for anyone who had interacted with user Anthony_shots on Snapchat or Instagram. And this account was later identified as 27-year-old Keegan Anthony Klein, who created a fake profile to lure underage girls to communicate with him on Snapchat and send him photos and videos. And it was found on February 23rd, 2017, that he factory reset his phone. So it was weird that it was like 10 days after the murder.
right.
And February 25th, 2017, police had issued a search warrant for all of his electronic devices, or all of the electronic devices with this account, like associated. And he didn't turn in his phone for that warrant until like 2 days later. And it was like clear on the phone that he had uninstalled and deleted like several apps, including Meet Me, Snapchat, and Instagram. And it was also eventually revealed that Klein had communicated via social media with Libby the night before she died. So that was like
Mm,
really weird.
yep.
But then it was eventually ruled out that like that was the extent of his interaction with Libby. So
Yeah.
he wasn't the person that had killed them. And he was arrested in 2020 for possession of child pornography. So at least he got other problems, but
Well, and
or
see,
whatever.
well, this is one of the things that I didn't realize. Like everything that I've seen linked to this case, and I know I know, like I've said, there's horrible people everywhere that do really shitty things. But this is like unbelievable the amount of people that were caught, prosecuted, and
Right.
charged based off of what just happened or them trying to figure out this case.
Right. They find all these other people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
great, but it still blows my mind when I see these things of when we have, what, four people now, three or four people that have been
Right.
arrested, charged, or committed, suicide to get out of whatever punishment they were going to get.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it was weird. Eventually, like a transcript of the police interview with that guy was like released about him talking about Libby and stuff, but he said he didn't really remember talking to her and like he didn't even know who she really was until after he saw in the news that she had been murdered. But he did fail a polygraph. Like polygraphs are not accurate. Like,
Well, and the thing that I've always thought was funny with polygraphs is you're put in like the most uncomfortable position and you're already stressed. So therefore, any test that is happening to you based off of anything happening to your body is probably going to be null and void, at least skewed
right.
to some extent because you already have a certain level of stress. But yeah, I
Yeah. He did search online how long does DNA last, which was weird, but whatever. He was
well,
not charged with
he was kind of a piece of shit. So, I get that.
he was doing other shit, so
Yeah.
and also they found out like a lot of people had access to this Anthony_shots account. Like it wasn't just Klein. So it was like hard to tell who was talking to who.
Oh, I see. So it was more of like a group effort by
Yeah.
weirdos. I got you.
Right. In May 17th, 2022, the Murder Sheet podcast obtained a 9-page request from the FBI for a search warrant that revealed like new details on the murders. So it was disclosed that the girls were found dead with wounds caused by a weapon, which they couldn't say more. And a large amount of blood was lost by the victims at the crime scene, but also mentioned there was no visible signs of struggle or a fight. So they had to have been subdued somehow. It also said that one of their pieces of clothing was missing, although did not specify what piece of clothing. And that led FBI to suspect the person took a souvenir, because they'll serial
that's
killers
pretty common.
do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Little memento.
Right, yeah. It also said it appeared the girls' bodies had been moved and staged at the crime scene, which that's not unheard of either. And it said there were unknown fibers and unidentified hairs that had been left. So that was kind of a key piece of evidence to, like, if they did arrest someone, to, like, compare that person to those pieces of evidence. So October 26, 2022, they arrested Richard Allen, and he was formally charged with the murders of Abby and Libby on October 28th. So they had arrested him, and then the trial was just 2 years after that, I guess, because trials take forever. Yeah. But he had worked at the CBS in Delphi, and he lived in Delphi since 2006. So he was very local. And at the press conference on October 31st, they said the tip line would remain open, like if people had any other tips. And the Indiana State Police Superintendent said, "We are going to continue a very methodical and committed approach to ensure that if any other person had any involvement in these murders in any way, that person or persons will be held accountable." So it kind of seems like they think maybe it could be another person.
Yeah, still think it's another person.
Yeah. Also, at conference, they could not discuss any evidence that they had because the probable cause affidavit was sealed in the court, and they said it was not going to be unsealed to the public until the trial.
Yeah.
So, like, none of that stuff. I guess he kind of looks like this sketch. I don't know.
Well, okay.
It's hard to tell.
So, listeners, we have, all three sketches that we've been talking about through here. Or, I'm sorry, the two sketches that we've been talking about here and the actual photo of the individual, Richard Allen.
Yeah.
Now, like I said earlier, there was no eyewitness to this. There was just speculation. They were getting an idea. And what they did was they drew a very general, small town, middle-aged, Caucasian male. So when you look at the two, they with the exception of the goatee, which you might have been able to make out some facial hair. I guess they did say scruffy.
Yeah, so, they did.
I mean,
and they said they enhanced the photo somehow. Like that picture they released to the public, they have enhanced it more.
Well, sure. Yeah. I mean, I know there's some point where you could clean it up, but I mean,
yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. The nose is off. Eyes are weird. Mouth is kind of the same, but yeah.
So he entered a plea of not guilty, of course, and initially he was set for pretrial on January 13th, 2023, and the trial was going to be on March 20th, 2023, but obviously that got pushed back.
Yeah.
On November 3rd, 2022, Sheriff Hobe Lesenby filed a motion to transfer Richard Allen from the county jail to the Indiana State Prison because he said that, like, they couldn't provide supervision at the county jail because of the media coverage.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Carroll County Judge Benjamin Diener signed off on the request, and Richard Allen was moved to the Westville Correctional Facility, which is by Valparaiso.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And then on the same day, the judge recused himself from the case because of a storm of requests to unseal the probable cause affidavit. And he also said he became aware of YouTube videos that, like, included photos of his family because people are going crazy about this.
Yeah. Once they realized that this is the guy, everybody wanted to know everything. I mean, hell, they have been waiting forever for any information, and now it's like, yeah, we got it, but you can't have it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So he did not want to be judge because of that.
I don't blame him.
Yeah. So the Indiana Supreme Court appointed Allen County Judge Fran Gohl as the new judge for the case, and she did remain the judge for the whole time. Also, Richard Allen's wife had to abandon their home because of the public bloodlust.
Yeah. I feel, see, that's the thing. I feel bad because that guy is a horrible human being.
Yeah.
His family, wife, whatever, they had nothing to do with what he did. You know what I mean? There at no point, at least from what I've researched through this, I'm led to believe that he was the only person doing this stuff. You know, he was the only
Yeah.
person there. It wasn't like a pre-planned, premeditated thing. It's from what I mean, I'm sure we'll get into that. But, you know, I get the public, and she's an easy target. You know, she's not,
Yeah.
in prison. She's just still living her life the best of her ability, knowing what her husband possibly did.
Right. Yeah. But it is sad for her. And Rich Allen would spend 13 months in solitary confinement at Westville those first time he was there. So that's like really
Well,
bad.
so I don't know this for sure. Always the talk about when you're, in sort of any correctional facilities. Anybody that messes with kids, man, you're
Well,
you're
yeah.
not gonna have a good time.
Right.
And you'll be lucky to survive interactions between other inmates. And like I said, I don't know that for sure. That's just what I've heard. But with it being such a high profile case, that's probably why they put him in solitary to keep him alive, you know?
Yeah, that's probably fair. But there is a little issue of if he was like mentally there during the trial then or whatever. But
Well, and see, is the problem. I was thinking about that earlier too. It's like, so you have this guy that obviously is not mentally well to begin with,
yeah.
and then you're going to like 13 months
Right.
in solitary. I like being by myself.
Yes.
I don't know if I would like being by myself for 13 months. I think I would
Well, just
go
in a room too. Like,
batshit crazy. Yeah.
right. Yeah. Yeah. Because a lot of people said he wasn't treated properly at the prison, and that's one of the things they say. But
Well, and fair. I don't feel
yeah.
like, well, anyway, yeah.
Yeah. But on November 14th, 2022, he received two court-appointed lawyers, Andrew Baldwin and Bradley Rosie. And on November 22nd, there was a public hearing on unsealing the probable cause affidavit because, like, normally these would be public record and available. And Nick McLeland revealed here that they had a good reason to believe he wasn't working alone and there could be other suspects involved. So unsealing it could jeopardize like the current trial, but also finding these other people that they thought might be involved. And so on November 22nd, like a week later, Judge Gold issued a written ruling stating the prosecutors failed to provide clear and convincing evidence that it shouldn't be released. So like 7 of the 8 pages were released to the public. And so the first part like went over the timeline of events, and it also stated one of the girls mentioned the word gun before the girls were instructed to go down the hill, and confirmed there was a caliber unspent round less than 2 feet away from the girls' bodies. It also included a series of interviews from witnesses, so they did have a couple witnesses that came forward. They said there were 3 juveniles who had been at the bridge around the time of the murder, and they remembered seeing a man who was kind of creepy. So I don't know if that's like where they got maybe the updated sketch or something.
Yeah, probably.
And then another witness said she saw a man on the first platform of the bridge, and she also saw a vehicle parked in an odd manner at the old CPS building. So that's probably where they got that information for
Yep.
the press conference. And another witness also said they saw like that same car parked there. So they had like 2 people who saw the car. And then a final witness said they saw a man wearing a blue-colored jacket and blue jeans who was muddy and bloody as if he had gone into a fight, like on the trail. So this witness like had seen him while she was driving across the country road 300 North with a timestamp around 3:57 p.m. It also said that investigators had officially interviewed Richard Allen in 2017. So like they had interviewed him the year that this happened. And he had confirmed, it's like, I don't know, how did you talk to him and not how did this take so long? But I guess they wanted to make sure they had a solid case or whatever, but
Sure.
but he had confirmed he had parked at that old building. Well, he said it was the old Farm Bureau building, but investigators believed it was the CPS building since there was like never a Farm Bureau building in the area. So like they already thought in 2017 that this was his car. And he had confirmed he was on the trail between 1:30 and 3:30, the day the girls had been killed. So he was there, like the time they were there. So it's like, how do you have this already in 2017? I don't know.
Well, I'd be curious. It just makes no sense. It's like in 2017, you've talked to this guy.
Right. And
He's
you ruled him out?
at the crime scene during the time frame that it happened.
Yeah.
And he is an older, Caucasian, scruffy male. I mean, I guess I don't know all the circumstances, but that seems ridiculous.
Maybe that wasn't enough, I guess.
Yeah,
Like, I don't know.
suppose.
And he did say he saw 3 females walk the bridge, but he claimed to have never seen Abby or Libby. And like the police tried to find, yeah, of course. The police like had tried to go find these 3 girls that supposedly had been there, but they couldn't verify who those people were.
You don't say.
Yeah. It also revealed another interview in October 13, 2023, where he confirmed he had been on the trails and that he was wearing blue jeans and a blue or black Carhartt jacket with a hood. So like literally the same outfit.
Bridgeman.
This was like a week before they arrested him, though, this second interview.
Yeah.
And he also admitted to owning firearms, but not carrying them carrying them on him at the time,
no,
is what he said.
Of course not.
But, right. And investigators had also talked to his wife around the same time and verified he owned like guns and knives and a blue Carhartt jacket. He did say in the interview, like he wasn't worried about the police questioning him because there was nothing to connect him to the murders. So I guess he was confident.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he also said he didn't want to be anyone's fall guy. Like he said, like, I don't want to be the fall guy here or whatever.
Yeah.
Because like they interviewed him for like an hour and a half and like he only started questioning, being like, hey, you make it sound like I'm the suspect here, like after 50 minutes talking to the police.
Well, yeah, they got to butter you up a little bit,
Yeah. I mean, he did waive his right to like counsel or whatever instead during the interview.
That's fucking stupid.
Yeah, but he didn't consent to a search of his car or house because they did ask that during the interview. And he eventually like said either arrest me or let me go. So they let him go like that time. Then like a couple of days later, they did have a search warrant. So they did search his house and his car. And then they officially arrested him on October 26th, 13 days later. And what they found at his residence were weapons, which included a .40 caliber Sig Sauer P226 pistol.
You're good.
Yeah. And a handgun that Allen admitted he never allowed anyone else to use or borrow. So he said, that's mine for sure. Which I don't know why he said like,
all this stuff, definitely mine. Don't let anybody tell you any different. It's mine.
Yeah, I don't let anyone borrow it ever. Like, that's mine only. And the lab performed testing on the gun and confirmed like the unspent round that they had found by the girls' bodies like came from his exact gun, I guess.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to, yeah.
Yeah, because it was like a duplication of the random like impression marks on it. And the police did say also they have fingerprint and DNA evidence, but like they didn't say if it did link to him, but I'm sure it did if they had arrested him at this point.
Yeah, I mean, if they had any sort of forensics and
yeah,
they would have matched to him.
Right. And the video too, like I'm sure there's more to that because I think they ended up saying it was like 46 seconds of video and they only ever released like 3 seconds. So there's like more talking and stuff in there that's more evidence that might have his voice or whatever too. Oh, I just lost my spot. Oh, there we go. Sorry. It just happened again.
Cut.
What is happening? Okay. Why does it keep... It's jumping. Okay. So, January 23rd, 2023, the court prohibited officials and family from disseminating any information about the case to the public. And like, obviously media organizations challenged the order because they want the information. And then on February 17th, 2023, they moved the trial from like March to later 2023 because his defense team had not yet received like all the evidence from the prosecution to like go through.
Oh, well, yeah.
So it was delayed because there's a lot of evidence with everything. Yeah. And then April 2023, his attorneys filed a motion for him to be moved to a closer jail because like Valparaiso from Delphi, I mean, that's pretty far. They wanted to either move him to Adams County or Allen County jail. And they also said like he had problematic living conditions at the Westville jail and mental decline because of the solitary confinement, among other things. And yeah, they said they had to travel 2 hours like from Indianapolis just to like meet with him anytime they had to meet with him. So it was a little ridiculous, but the judge denied that request to move.
Yeah. He's fine where he's at.
Yeah. And then June 29th, 2023, 118 court documents were released. And this revealed that a knife was used in the murders. And it also said that in Libby's video, you can hear a gun being cycled and one of the girls saying like gun or he has a gun. And court records also said clothing from the girls were missing, including a sock and a pair of underwear. September 18th, 2023, Richard Allen's attorneys released a memorandum including a theory that Odinists killed Abby and Libby. And they also had a motion to suppress a search warrant on his property, which I don't know why they're still searching his property at this point.
It could be something as they might be looking for actual pieces of, like you said, they might not have found the actual knife. They might not have found the articles of clothing that were missing. Maybe that was something that was still going down.
And Odinists are a white nationalist group who practices the ancient Nordic religion Odinism. So I guess that used to be like a pagan. Yeah, it was like a pagan religion, but white nationalists have taken over.
Not hell yeah.
Yeah. So his attorneys claim there were some ritualistic markings around the crime scene that indicated Odinists. So, for example, they said what looked to be runes and Germanic letters associated with Odinism were formed with sticks and placed over both girls' bodies. And there was also a letter painted on a tree with Libby's blood, and faux antlers were created with sticks and branches and placed above Abby's head. So it doesn't seem like a normal... Like, it seems like weird elements to how they were placed and everything. And also, some of these branches had been cut with a power saw, so it, like, suggested these were prepared before the killings and, like, fashioned, however they were formed or whatever. And the bodies were also positioned in a way that looked ritualistic. I don't have notes on this, but, like, the way their arms were positioned and stuff, like, on there, it just looked ritualistic. They also accused 2 correctional officers at the Westville Correctional Facility who were overseeing, like Richard Allen, as having ties to Odinism, which they cited an interlocking triangle badge that the officers have on their uniform, which I guess is a symbol of Odinism, is what they're saying, but it's on their uniform, so that seems weird to me. And this, like, Odinism theory was dismissed by prosecutors, obviously.
Well, I mean, it seems like a lot.
Yeah.
We're reaching. And we're reaching as far as we can. And I don't envy defense attorneys. That is a job I would never want to have. But I feel like if you have an outlandish story, it might be enough to sway some sort of, jury decision making, As far as that goes, the stuff I kind of read, I kind of dug into Richard a little bit more. And, I'm not really buying the whole Odinism thing. I think he just was an opportunistic asshole that, decided to do this, and I guess in a very horrible way, he intended, at least from what I was reading, to do more before he killed them. And thankfully, it looks like he just killed them. It's not a thankfully either way, but, they didn't have to go through anything worse than what they already did.
Right. October 2023, evidence was leaked from the case. So on November 22nd, Mitchell Westerman was arrested in connection with the leaked evidence, which he had worked for Andrew Baldwin, which is one of his lawyers. And like, even after he stopped working for him, he still visited the office frequently. So like when he visited him, he found evidence photos like about the case, like spread out in Baldwin's conference room. And he took photos of this without permission and like spread it around.
Tidbit illegal.
So like, yeah. So there's some mismanagement of this case though, and he allegedly sent those photos to a guy from Fishers who was employed at the Fort Wayne U.S. Air Force Base. And that guy shared them with some guy from Texas. And this Texas guy posted it to YouTube and gave it to podcast creators.
I see. I got the connection.
Yeah.
Now. I got it.
So on October 5th, officials were notified of the leak and like interrogated the guy from Fisher's, and then this guy killed himself after the questioning.
That's
So it's
odd.
like that's really weird too. I don't know.
Like I know
It's just
he did some illegal things, but nothing like that bad.
right. So it's just a weird little thing that I don't know. October 19th, 2023, Judge Gold removed Richard Allen's attorneys, like partly because of this evidence leak, and he's given 2 new attorneys. But because of this, then they had to move it to 2024. So these new attorneys can go through the evidence and everything. And then, like, just a week or 2 later, like October 30th, he asks the Indiana Supreme Court to review the special judge Frangold's decisions in the case and to reinstate like his defense lawyers. Like he wanted Andrew Baldwin and Brad Rosie back.
Yeah.
And then November 6th, 2023, Richard Allen's civil attorneys filed a second case in the Indiana Supreme Court asking for the original teams, like asking for the same thing again, basically.
Right. Yeah. They're just trying to get
it.
they're trying to get the OGs back in.
Yeah. And so January 2024, they were reinstated, but their motion to remove Judge Gold is denied. And then the trial is moved to October 2024, which is what actually happened. The trial actually went through in October. So there were other details that came out during the trial, which was that there was only one car registered in Carroll County that appeared to match the one seen on surveillance footage captured near the trails. Which this car is a Ford Focus SE model, and it's owned by Richard Allen. So he's literally the only one in the county.
The only one.
Yes. Yeah. They said during 2016 to 2017, like they looked at the Indiana like BMV records, and there were 31 Ford Focus cars in like all the surrounding counties. But like without duplicates, it went down to 18. And then specifically for the Ford Focus SE model, there were only 8 in like all of the counties surrounding it, and only 1 in Carroll County. So,
well, hindsight's a son of a bitch, but I mean, man.
Yeah, when I heard that, I was like okay, yeah,
this could have been over so quickly. It would have been 48 hours. It would have been 48 hours.
Yeah, I don't understand how this took so long. Also, like his defense attorneys obviously wanted to present this evidence related to Odidism that they had or whatever, or they allegedly had. And like I could not find if they were ever allowed to present it. I don't think they were. So they never actually got to present that side to like the jury because the judge blocked that.
See, and that's one thing. I don't buy it, but I would like to know what that was. Like, what was that evidence? You know what I mean? Because like I said earlier, they're reaching with that. That seems like a bunch of bullshit to me. But to ask again during the actual October 24 trial to be able to, have it present and used in the trial, there had to be something there then that would at least somewhat point to it. You would think it wouldn't just be something like a wasted endeavor.
Yeah, and they filed to the motion to like reveal this evidence like multiple times. So, and the judge kept saying no because it wasn't real evidence.
Maybe he's part of the conspiracy.
Yeah, maybe. So, I don't know. It does seem a little weird that they couldn't at least present it to the jury or like whatever it was. I don't know. Yeah, I kind of want to see like what they're talking about because a lot of like the prosecution said the sticks were like more just to cover them up, like to hide the bodies.
Well, and see, that's what I've read. I never even dug. I need to start digging deeper into this more conspiratorial side of this because that's something I didn't know about as far as the branches actually being like cut and fashioned.
Right. That's what the defense is saying. Yeah.
Yeah, because if that's true, then might be something weird happening alongside with this.
Yeah, or maybe more than one person at that point.
Right.
So it is weird. And then on November 11th is the actual day the trial ended. So the jury found Richard Allen guilty on 4 counts of murder. So like 1 count each of felony murder and then 1 count. I saw like murder and kidnapping or something was the other 2 counts. So So, like, because of that, he faced between 45 and 130 years in prison, which that amount was decided on December 27th. So he was sentenced to 130 years in prison, which was 65 years for each victim. But his lawyers do plan to appeal, so there might be an update later, like another 5 years or something. Who knows?
Well, I mean, yeah, who knows? This is one of those things where, I mean, this trial, well, his sentencing literally just happened.
Yeah.
Like, what is today? The 7th
The
of
7th.
January. You know, this happened 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and for him to be sentenced now in the sentencing, like the 130 years, like, yeah, I get it. He's going to be in prison for the rest of his life. But when you have these super long sentences like this, it's not uncommon for that time to get knocked down either, you know, after they've served 10, 15 years. You know what I mean?
Right.
Not saying that they're just going to be like, oh, hey, rehabilitated. You're good to go, buddy. Yeah,
Right.
sorry, don't do that again, sort of thing. But yeah, it is possible for that stuff to kind of get knocked down, and I'm still kind of hung up on that with the Odinism thing now, man.
Yeah.
Like I kind of want to figure out what's up with that.
Yeah, I think it's weird because I was trying to look for it, like when I had first done this research, like last year, I had found like a news place that had like a silhouette of how their bodies were positioned. And it did look like ritualistic, like weird. But I couldn't find that again when I was looking for this. But like one of their legs, I feel like it was like a, you know, where one leg's like out, like the knees out, and then one's straight, like a yoga pose kind of.
Oh, I see. I got what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. And like one of their hands was like on their chest and one was like up. Like it was clearly posed for something. I would say that's not how they died.
Yeah, it's a very unnatural way for a body to fall, for sure.
Right. Yeah. And they had said that there was like fibers around their mouth, so they assumed they were like taped.
Right. Yeah,
and they
taped
could
or
have been
gagged
bound.
or something.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It is kind of weird, but I hope they have the right guy. I'm sure I feel like he was involved somehow, but I'm not convinced he was the only one.
I would agree. I am fairly certain he was definitely a perpetrator involved. But, you know, and I don't want to chalk it up to a label, right? I don't want to say it was the Odinism or the white nationalists or whatever they want to try to say it would be. But having something else or a group, another person or a group of people involved, I mean, hell, we talked about 3 absolutely horrible people that were sentenced in the process of this trial. It's not out of the realm of possibility that in some small town in Indiana, there are a handful of crazy, whatever belief system you want to call it, where they involve ritualistic killing. I mean, it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility just based off of the story we just talked about. Yeah. You know, so I mean, I think it's entirely possible. I agree he probably had something to do with it for sure, and probably was the main perpetrator of it. But
right, especially since his car is the only one.
Well, that fact pisses me off. I'm not gonna lie to you about that. You know, but once again, hindsight's a son of a bitch, so I get it. I mean, but still,
unless he's being framed on the ceiling car. They stole
maybe the Odinists took all the other Ford Focus SEs out of the county right before they did that. That's
or they wiped the database. Yeah,
dude, that's the other thing. You got people on the inside that work at the the B&B. Yeah. They just got rid of the evidence. You know, this goes all the way to the top. Goes to the top, Sarah.
Right. Yeah.
Man. Well, listeners, that is the Delphi Murders and Trial. What do you guys think about it? Leave it in the comments down below. However you're interacting with this, like, comment. Do you think he was the only killer? Was Richard the right guy? Was multiple people? Do you have extra evidence that we can get involved with this? Please don't do that. I don't want to. Just send that to the proper authorities if you have that, please. I don't want to be involved. I would rather be a polite bystander. But yeah, I think that's probably going to do it for this week's episode.
Yep. That was a good one.
That is a good one. Well, watchers, listeners, however you're consuming this content, hope you enjoyed. And Sarah and I will check you next week on The Paranoid Perspective.
Yeah.